Hey, welcome to Caching in the Northwest. You know, this is the podcast from the birthplace of geocaching right here in the great Pacific Northwest. Now, it's Thursday at 9 p.m. Pacific, and for some reason, they call me Chris of the Northwest. We're going to talk about geocaches and geocachers from here and all around the globe. So while you're stocking up on hot cider and cocoa for Costco, we'll be caching in the Northwest.
Oh, yeah, stock up on the Costco runs. Always good. Get those little hand warmer hot pad things too.
They have toe warmers this year.
Oh, okay. Check that out. Well, he is Chris of the Northwest. I am Witsan, and tonight we're talking with the Twonky, also known as Dave Barsky. Dave, welcome to the show. Glad to have you.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks you so much for having me on. Finally.
Oh, yeah. We've been planning this for a long time. He's got some great geocaching adventures that we're going to chat about. Listeners, do you have any great adventures planned? Give us your feedback. Throw them in the chat. Stay tuned. Find out all the details about those. But of course, before we can jump into the show, it's time to bring in our timestamp Tamarin. Some say he was the inspiration for mannequins. And others say he sells pictures of his feet to make the mortgage payment. All we know is he's called Land Monkey.
Wow, I didn't know you had been on my website recently. That's disturbing.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
It is disturbing. My counseling appointments prove that.
That's why I go to the website, actually. I like disturbing.
It's nice to have you back then. Yeah. Oh, hey. And if you haven't been to my website, well, something else that you would appreciate is the support that we appreciate the support of our patrons who help to keep the podcast coming each and every week. Thanks to our corporate Denali level sponsors, that would be Landsharks and Cachly, the geocaching app. Guys, if you want to go and buy some cool stuff that you have seen on geocaching.com, well, check it out also over at Landsharks. Even some stuff maybe you won't see on geocaching.com. Check it out at Landsharks. They've got all kinds of cool caching supplies, trackables, all kinds of cool stuff. So landsharkz.ca. They are an official geocaching.com reseller and also official, the premier geocaching app for iOS. That's Cachly. Version 8 with Cachly Pro features offline maps of the entire world so that you can navigate while offline Delorme counties so you can finish those grids. And coming soon, I keep saying it, still waiting, but I know Nick's working hard at it. CarPlay support. Find Cachly in the iOS App Store or go to cachly.com. And folks, if you want to know more about supporting this here podcast, please head on over and click the Patreon link on the cachingNW.com website.
Oh, thank you so much.
Indeed. Thank you to everyone who is supporting the podcast.
Yeah.
Now here comes the part of the show where I ask a question and hopefully somebody provides an answer. It's time for the glow. And some people have asked, thank you, Brylang. You were on top of it. What is a glow?
What is a glow?
Why, that's a geocaching log of the week. So whether you read it or whether you wrote it, we want to hear about it because great logs simply make geocaching better. You can send an email or a voice recording from that fancy smartphone of yours to feedback@cachingnw.com. You can also call into 253-693-TFTC and show us just how you glow.
Yes, indeedy. So this week's glow, it's for a cache called Paddle-dee-dee, Paddle-dee-dum. That's GC8 Charlie 5 Juliet 4. And the log writer, creator, log owner is Zanaski, I think it is. Recent, just last month. Mm-hmm. The log says, Buddy had an absolute blast watching me struggle in the mud here. It looked muddy, but I had no clue how bad it was until I was already one leg in, almost up to my knee. I threw my paddle on the shore as we pulled up, so I had no choice but to jump in to go get it. Buddy laughed and laughed as I wandered around on the beach looking for the cache, getting stuck every few feet. Spotted the cache under a broken branch and realized I had to be in the kayak to access it. Ugh. Boat full of mud and Buddy laughing hysterically, we slowly pushed our way in the kayak over to the container and signed. I'm already muddy. Might as well find some more. Buddy spotted a big tree monster on the lake as we paddled in. TFTC. P.S. This was a paddle outing for Buddy's 5th birthday. Photos, too. My favorite is the one there of Buddy in the kayak.
Oh,
And you can see quite a bit of mud.
that's awesome.
So,
And you can see some rather deep footprints in there too.
so sounds like a great adventure. Thanks for sending that glow in.
I wonder if she came back with both boots.
Yeah. Depending how deep the mud is, sometimes you leave the shoes behind. That can,
Accidentally. Yeah.
yeah.
Not
Not that I would
voluntarily.
ever know that from personal experience. I'm just theoretically saying I've heard that.
Can happen.
Well, folks, we know you want to ask questions to the Twonky here tonight. So we want you to use hashtag Twonky in the chat. That's TWONKY. You can do this. I think we have it up here on the hashtag Twonky right here. Nope, that's the
That's
FATF.
hashtag
I missed
FATF.
it.
Keep trying. You can do this.
There it is. Now I found it. There aren't many to choose from yet. I have to, be literate and read. So there it is on the screen if you need to spell it. Use the hashtag Twonky to ask a question in the chat tonight. And of course, use the hashtag FATAS if you want to bring up anything in the after show. Click that like and subscribe button. Send us a little feedback as well. We love that stuff.
Yeah,
Indeed.
absolutely. And again, on that, just a reminder for everybody listening or watching the video, those, obviously subscribing really helps us out.
Mhm.
Doesn't cost you anything. And those likes, boy, that's just a couple seconds of your time. And that means a lot to us. So if you could, if you get any kind of enjoyment out of this, just go on over and click that for us. Helps us out a lot.
That's right. In fact, we're going to start a contest here really soon for subscribing. So we want to boost our YouTube numbers a bit, and you can help do that for us and win some cool prizes.
Cool prizes.
Yeah, cool.
Direct from the fridge.
Could be.
Well,
cold
it's a
storage.
freezer. And have you been outside today? It's cold. I mean, we just send them in the mail. They'll be there frozen.
There you go.
Okay.
Well, Dave, welcome so much to the podcast. We're excited to have you join us tonight and share about your geocaching adventures. And we have been working far too long to get this thing scheduled.
Well, you guys are busy people.
We've got most of the shows scheduled to the end of the year, and now we're starting to pile into next year to schedule shows, and finding we've got more people to talk to than we have dates to talk to them. So
It's a good problem to have.
yeah, it is. It is.
Absolutely. I'm glad I made it on finally. Thanks, guys.
Well, to be honest, I tell everybody we're excited to have them on the podcast, but because this has been so long in the making, I am excited to talk to you.
So
Fire
there you
away.
go, Dave. The secret is just drag it out, drag it
Yeah.
out, drag it out.
Exactly.
It's anticipation. Yeah. Now, I have to admit, I'm not sure what name you prefer. Do you go by Dave? Do you go by Barsky? Do you go by the Twonky? Or is there something else you prefer? Hey, you.
No, anything's fine, just not all at once. That's fine.
Okay.
Fair enough. Fair enough. You've had quite the interesting background career there. I see over 30 credits, some level of producer on IMDb. There are maybe a few people out there that don't know you by name, but they'll know some of the projects that you've been part of on that. Would you be willing to share maybe some of your memorable work-related adventures before we jump into geocaching?
Sure. I mean, obviously, I think most people know me from a show called Dirty Jobs that was on Discovery Channel from, oh gosh. I mean, technically, we had the first 3 episodes were produced in 2003, and then it was full series in 2005, and that lasted to 2010. And, that was a great show. I mean, not too many programs last 7 seasons back then anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where most people know me. It was internationally well known, and also I appeared on the show on occasion. We were pretty raw, behind the scenes, wherever the cameras went.
Yeah.
It's fair game, but I've done quite a few other things. I've had a really great career. I mean, I could retire now and pretty much be very satisfied with what I've done. I did a show a lot of people know called Expedition Unknown that is also on Discovery, now on Discovery. People love that show. It's, I love traveling. I love international travel. I've done a bit of it this summer on my own. And I mean, I only worked on that show for 6 months. It was a full season. And, in that 6 months, I went to 8 different countries. And it's pretty much the show that started me geocaching, believe it or not. I guess we can tell that story in a bit. Yeah, I've done so much. It's hard to know where to begin and what people are interested in, really.
Yeah.
It's funny in television, as a showrunner, a producer, a director, much like actors, you tend to get pigeonholed. I'll never do a Bravo show, because I don't have those credits, and people who produce Bravo shows want directors who produce Bravo shows, showrunners, they want a resume built in already, so you can just plug and play, basically. But I have fallen into a bunch of categories. I've been lucky. I do a bunch of food shows. People call me for food shows. People call me for magic shows, and sort of like what they call the male space in television. Sort of guy stuff. Motorcycles. I did American Chopper back in the second season of that show. That was also on Discovery Channel. I love nonfiction TV. I would never work on a sitcom. It's just not my thing. I don't even watch them, really. I haven't watched a sitcom since, I don't know, Welcome Back, Kotter was on. That might date me, but I think I actually caught that in syndication. So, but anyway, I've been very fortunate, and luckily a lot of it has been travel. I mean, with Dirty Jobs alone, we went to every state in the United States. Unfortunately, I wasn't geocaching at that time.
Yeah.
But I've been every state at least twice. Some of them the second time because of geocaching, because I needed to get those states on my profile page, right?
Exactly.
And it's great because I've been literally a geography nerd all my life. I've been fascinated by maps. And of course, geocaching is really brought me down the rabbit hole even further. When you look at a map and you see all the different places you go, all the places it takes you, and then all of a sudden you can see a county map. I'm like, oh my God, how exactly? You guys know what I'm talking about. It's like, how beautiful would it be to visit every single county in this nation? And you know what? I broke 1,000 this year, so I'm still going strong. So.
Wow. Fantastic.
So Dave, you teased at this a little bit earlier when talking about some of your work adventures, but maybe share with us how you first got introduced to the game of geocaching and how long you've been at it.
I discovered geocaching in June of 2015, so it's just over 9.5 years now. I first got the job on Expedition Unknown, and I was doing research for a show we're doing on Columbus's bones. There's some controversy where his final resting place is, and honestly, it may be in several places. So there was a lot of different places we had to travel for that show. I came in midway producing that show. They'd already been to, I believe, the Dominican Republic, and we still had to go to Spain and Portugal for the show. So, we also do historical reenactments for on occasion, just to help illustrate the time. You've all seen documentary television. So I wanted to do some research on props. So I was looking at Columbus era coins. And when plugging that into Google search, something came up, Columbus geocoin. And I'm like, what the heck is a geocoin? That sounds interesting to me. So, clicked on that, said something about geocaching. What the heck is geocaching? And I'm like, okay. So I went to the website. I saw the little introductory video with the tree coming down on the pulley and all that kind of stuff. I said, oh my God, this is for me. I signed up right there and then, premium. And, I didn't go out and find a cache that day or anything. I signed up on the 25th of June in 2015. 4 days later, I'm waiting for my ride to the airport. and I decided to go to Starbucks, and I opened up the app and I saw that there was one cache between here and Starbucks, and I found it. And I was like, and it was the coolest thing. It was called Ernie Keebler. It's been since archived, and I actually resurrected it because it was my first, but I had for problems, I actually just archived it myself, my resurrected cache. But anyway, there's some historic row of olive trees on this road to right by my house. My town is called Chatsworth in the city of Los Angeles. It's actually the third actual town that was founded in the Los Angeles's San Fernando Valley, and it was the end of a train run before the mountains blocked the train, but since bored a tunnel, of course. But anyways, it was really cool. It was called Ernie Keebler, and I was like, okay, maybe that's a clue. And I saw a little like wire coming out of one of the holes in the tree, and I pulled it out, and it was about a foot long, and there was a pill bottle attached to the end of it. I was like, okay, this is really cool. So anyways, I logged the cache. I flew to Portugal, and I think 2 days later, I found my second cache. So my second cache was in a different country altogether. The next day, we flew to Spain, and I got my third cache in a third country. So my first 3 caches were in, I guess that's kind of cool, in 3 different countries.
So typical.
Within a week. Well, maybe in Europe,
Yeah, true.
But I thought that was a lot of fun.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing. I mean, people are lucky to get, 3 caches in 3 states, but 3 countries alone, your first 3, that's quite impressive.
Yeah, I went to, like I said, I went to a lot of countries during the run of that show alone in 6 months. Unfortunately, it was rough. Like we were a month out. I'm sorry, we were going to take a month trip, and it was started in Israel, and then we went to Turkey. And at the end of the first week, we were about to leave Turkey, and I dropped my phone and shattered half of the phone's face lengthwise. But I could still just sometimes use the app where I had it, but I couldn't switch the apps around. I couldn't use half my apps. But so that was like, and I'm like, okay, where's the nearest iPhone? I'm in Istanbul, and the nearest Apple store is literally in Munich.
Oh, jeez.
And I'm like, oh, great. But it just so happens
It's a long walk.
Well, I know, but we were flying to Munich, and we're going to be in Munich. Actually, we're going to travel. We're making our way west. We're going through Hungary, and then we're going to Austria, and then we're going to go to Germany and then fly out. But still, we only in Munich for like a half a day, unfortunately, and I couldn't get it done. We were just so busy on that show, I just couldn't get it done. So, but I was able to get like 1 cache in each of those countries as we traveled through. Still. And then my phone went kaput like the last day.
Oh, I think we all have stories similar to that, right? Yeah. Batteries die, something, but not in another country trying to find an Apple store.
Yeah,
that's good. That's good. Now, Dave, your geocaching name, the Twonky, has a little story behind it, right? Some people may know, but let's assume that the people listening here have no idea what a Twonky is. How do you go about explaining that?
Well, everybody I encounter asks me that because it's kind of weird. It's not like my initials or anything like that. And it's actually one of my favorite science fiction movies. It's absolutely terrible. And every time I tell people about this movie, they like, it's free on YouTube. It's public domain. You can watch it. You can watch it on YouTube. I dare you to watch it on YouTube, actually. it might take you 6 different intervals of viewing, but it's just, the production value is not great. It was made in 1953, and it's about a television that is from outer space that takes over a man's life. His wife buys him this television because she's going away. He thinks, she thinks he'll need some company, so buys him a TV. That turns out it's some alien from outer space, and it is so goofy, and I absolutely love it because it's so bad. I just like those movies. It does star Hans Conried, who some people know, but if you saw him, I think you'd recognize him. He was in a movie called The 5,000 Fingers of Dr. T, which was a really cool Dr. Seuss inspired movie. And the sets are like really unusual, avant-garde. But he is also very famous. This is when I tell people about him, he's also very famous for playing in 2 episodes of Gilligan's Island as a character called Wrong Way Feldman.
Wrong Way Feldman. I loved him.
He's the pilot that gets lost and he lands on the island. Yeah, everybody knows Wrong Way Feldman for some reason. Love that.
Nice.
But anyway, so it's about a television. Yeah, it's about a television that takes over a man's life, and being in the television industry and putting so many hours into it. I guess it was apropos.
Yeah.
Right.
It reminds me of the Twilight Zone slot machine. Franklin.
Oh, I actually have a replica of that sitting across from me. It actually dispenses cards of my future.
Nice.
Oh,
I'm a huge sci-fi nerd. I'll just tell you that right now.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
that is very cool.
Something else that's pretty cool, Dave. We hear you're on the cusp of a major geocaching milestone. Do you have any plans around that?
Yeah, I've had plans for that. I didn't know when I was going to exactly hit it, so I had to put it off a bit. But when I hit 18,000, I decided what I was going to do. And if you'll notice, I have not, the only state in the lower 48 I have not cashed in yet is Washington. Believe it or not, I've been there so many times, but not as a geocacher. So on Monday, I am flying to Portland. I'm going to drive into Washington, get all the webcams in Washington. And on Wednesday, I'm going to make my 20,000th HQ.
Nice.
Oh, fantastic.
Yep.
Nice. That was a question in the chat. Have you ever visited HQ?
Yeah, there you go.
Northwest?
UDAC asks all the hard questions. I know her well. I've been to many events that she's hosted. She's a great geocacher.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Well, that's exciting.
So do the folks at HQ know that you're coming for that milestone, or is it going to be a surprise?
No, they know. I told them all that. I told Brian when he came down to our spring fling down here in Los Angeles. I told him that, and Annie Love is a friend of mine as well, and we're gonna have after my visit that night, we're gonna have an event to celebrate at the local brewery, and so it's gonna be cool.
Awesome.
Yep.
Fantastic. Well, that was a question we have later on. I noticed that you haven't cashed in the state of Washington.
Yeah. Taking care of that. I got to be careful though, because I'm going to get caches before the HQ, of course.
Yeah.
And I have about 6 challenges that I've signed that say, hey, that if I get a cache in Washington, I'll qualify for the challenge finally. So I got to mind my numbers.
you can use those to pad in case you're 1 or 2 short, or you can wait till after the event to log those, right?
I don't usually do that. I'm pretty damn strict about my numbers.
Okay.
I'm like, oh man, I remember when I went to get my 100th, there was a really cool one in the mountains behind my house, and it was called Space Mountain, and it was an ammo can. I'd heard about it. And it was in a burnt out area. It burnt out maybe 5 years before I actually found it, or maybe it was more recent, maybe 3 years. And I made it I was gonna make this my 100th cache, and then this is back in 2015. Or actually no, it would have been 2016, early 2016. And I went to look when I could started getting into all the stats and all that stuff on the website. And I found this thing about duplicate logs, and it said I had 8 duplicate logs, and I'm like, what the heck? It just so happens when I'm in those mountains, there was no reception at all, and it's always duplicated my logs sometimes when I found a cache there. So Space Mountain is not my 100th, unfortunately. It's some other random thing I don't even remember.
Yeah, I've done that too. I remember here we had some events where they would go put out a temporary cache for the event. And they go, just log the event twice.
Yeah.
And then then they came up with these stats, and I'm like, oh, that screwed me up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I remember when I was doing research and stuff for this year's Geo Woodstock, and talking to some of the old, the old hosts and, the people who were at the first Geo Woodstock, they had pocket caches and all that kind. And when to log the pocket cache, you just logged the event itself 4 times.
Right.
Oh man, it's kind of crazy how things have changed. And if you're someone who's like really, really stringent about stats, that's got to mess with your brain, you know?
Yeah. Especially as stats evolve, and now they're comparing this and that, and it's like, wait, I never even had to think about that. Now I've got to go do, X to go and get my numbers up to get to the right level. So.
Oh yeah, wait till they integrate adventure labs into actual locations and put that in your state count. I mean, geez.
Oh, there you go.
That'll be crazy.
Well, I'm excited for you to hit Washington State and especially HQ. We're blessed to be here in the Pacific Northwest. We've all been to HQ several times and do a lot of caching around here. I see Caching Kent says early congrats on that milestone.
Thank you so much.
So yeah, it's going to be great. There's some great caches up in this area here.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I've done my research. Let's say that.
Very cool. And there's several. I see comments in the chat about wanting to connect with you and co-caching together. But
anytime.
Yeah,
Scott. GSM times 2. We had a big party for his 22nd. And we hiked up to a pretty storied cache that nobody could find. There was like 20 of us in this old steam shovel on top of a mountain.
Those are fun.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah, and we were crawling all over. It was, oh my god, the pictures of that day of everybody. And then this other woman I know who got into caching after us literally found both our throwdown and the original cache a couple of months later.
It's always the way.
Didn't it though?
Well, you've kind of answered this question, but I'm going to hit it anyway. The question we were going to ask you is, geocaching can take you to a lot of amazing places, and it has for all of us. So you said the question was, do you use geocaching to pick your destinations, or you just happen to cache as you explore around? And I see you've kind of done both. As you've been working in countries, grabbed that, but you've got this trip planned to Washington. But in general, maybe. Do you have a general philosophy about that?
Oh yeah, I mean, you're right about both, man. I could tell you a lot of stories, and as long as my wife doesn't listen to this podcast, I can tell them. We last week we just got back from 2.5 weeks in Japan, and which is my favorite country. I've been there twice before, and I'm looking around and I'm like, oh, where's the oldest geocache in Japan? Well, turns out the oldest geocache in Japan is the oldest geocache in Asia.
Oh, nice.
And it's in Okinawa, which is a good 2-hour flight or so from Tokyo. So, I've never been to Okinawa before. Honey, would you like to go to Okinawa? And sure enough, we went, and it was really cool, actually. It's a neat little hike. You got to use a rope to get down a steep cliff on a beach. And there's some really cool rock formation, a lot of tufa, so it's really sculpted from the water. I don't know why there's not an earth cache in there. That would have been great. But anyways, you have to walk along the beach a little bit, then climb back up on very sharp tufa to get the actual cache. So it was really fun to do, and I'm so glad I made that trip. Then she started to suspect after I did that. So the only reason why we go to Okinawa to go find this geocache, I was like, no, not really.
Not the only. An important reason, but not the only reason.
Not the only reason.
There's a lot of other stuff we did too. I mean, I honestly, having done a lot of documentaries on World War II, we obviously we both have done that, and we worked on such documentaries. So we wanted, do a little history seeking with the war, and it was something else in Okinawa, if you don't know. And they have a beautiful, beautiful park there, dedicated to the war, and a great museum that is really interesting, because the Okinawans, a lot of them still don't consider themselves Japanese, like it's kind of like the Hawaii in a lot of ways,
right?
Of the United, of Japan, but it was beautiful, and as a bonus, I got to see some locations of one of my favorite Godzilla movies, so that was great.
There you go.
Very cool.
Was it just a tiny city? Could you stomp through it?
No, but I certainly tried.
Nice.
Oh yeah, and Iham says Okinawa is a beautiful place. I believe he lived there.
Oh,
for
yeah.
part of his childhood.
It
there.
definitely is. Yeah, yeah, we love hiking and all that kind of stuff. We did plenty of that there, and we did a lot of urban hiking in Japan. Otherwise,
Yeah.
But yeah, so sometimes I will pick. Sometimes it picks me. But even if we're going, to wherever we're going, we'll go a little extra out of the way. Sometimes it's interesting geocache. It turns out it takes us to an interesting place. And this summer we've done a lot of traveling. We both have been off, so we've been to Canada, we've been to Germany, went to Germany and Luxembourg in July, and we love castles, so we did a lot of castling. And on the way back from Luxembourg to the Frankfurt airport, just so happened to be, if I went a little bit out of the way, I could get Germany's oldest cache.
Okay.
And it was at one of the best preserved castles in all of Germany. So we had a great time there. We spent probably a little bit too long there because I got 2 speeding tickets on the way back to Frankfurt to the tune of €80. So I still got to pay those, by the way.
Thanks for reminding me.
They will find you.
Obviously,
Yeah.
you weren't on the Autobahn. There's no speed limit there.
Yeah, I guess I thought I had been, but no, it was not. Yeah, I can't get out of those, I guess. But yeah, it was, I talked about my wife. I see Scott's asking a question if my wife enjoys Adventure Labs. I know Scott has said his wife does, and believe it or not, my wife does too, for the most part. She, when we're in interesting historical places, when we're driving around, she loves that. We drove back. It was like towards the end of the pandemic. I want to say it was, it was December of 22. I'm from Boston originally, the Boston area, and during the pandemic, I drove back to Boston twice, and I made sure I got the webcams in between here and there. I usually mark my path according to the webcams I need.
Yeah.
But I'd say, hey, there's we're gonna stay in this town, and I think it was Tennessee. I think we're in Jackson, Tennessee, and it turns out there's this train museum there. My wife absolutely loved it, and there was an Adventure Lab in part there, and she usually finds herself enjoying some of the places Adventure Lab takes her. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things. If you're not in a rush, you're not trying to power through it. Like Adventure Labs, often there'll be a little bit of people put some time into them. There'll be a little bit of description, and it'll take you to some interesting spots. And so, I can see how that can be appealing for sure.
Well, it's appealing to her because, according to her, geocaching is, me rummaging around the scrub while she has to wait in the sun while I'm trying to find something that she eventually finds. Literally, I'll be in there for 5 minutes. She goes, "You need some help?" I'm like, "Yeah." "Is this it?" I'm like, "Shut up." And there it is.
Yeah, my wife
The
also got
arrow's
real.
pointing over here.
Yeah, my wife also got real tired of looking through wet, because in the Pacific Northwest everything's wet when we go out caching.
Yeah.
Looking through wet ferns and stuff for stuff. She goes, "I like Adventure Labs. They're way more fun."
Yeah.
So.
Same with my wife. Yeah.
It's perfect for the Muggle spouse for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah. Hey, Dave, there's another great question that came in the chat from CRS98 from Cliff. And he's asking, what is the scariest place you've found a cache?
Oh my God, that's good. That's a
Interesting.
really good question.
It's the right time of year for it, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not sure. Okay, it depends what. I'm not sure what I get scared of, but you know what? I am kind of scared of. I'm a little bit afraid of heights sometimes. Especially if it's unstable. There is a great 5.5 multi that I did a couple of years ago, and it was, I think, 4 stages. And the first thing you have to do is walk almost, I got to say, it's got to be at least 3/4 of a mile in a tunnel that goes under a freeway. And I mean, there's water in it, standing water in it generally, and you got to find, the codes to the next stage. And I was with somebody else at the time, and I was leading the way. And I mean, it was crazy. It was wet. It was weird. We saw some like evidence of homeless people living there, so you didn't know where they were at the time. But I kept walking, and we're looking at the walls. We're thinking that maybe there's something inscribed in the walls that would give us the coordinates for the next the next stage. And all of a sudden, I hear, "Hey, is this it?" And she's like 20 feet. My partner's 20 feet behind me, and she literally found the coordinates on the walls that I had just passed. And so, who knows how far we would have gone if she hadn't seen them. Eventually in the final stage, you really have to climb up a mountain that basically doesn't have a trail. And at this point, the only way to get to the cache was hidden on the rocks at the peak. There was a huge chunk of land that had eroded and just fallen out. And I remember leading the way on that too, and being a little concerned that the earth above that was unstable. There was rock you could not ascend right above you, and then there's a drop off from where all the earth had eroded away, and there's probably only about 5 feet in between the two. And I'm like, okay, we'll see. I'll go first. Sure, why not? At least the others will live to tell about it, right? But luckily, it was stable at the time. Who knows what it's like now? But it was an amazing cache. And I think that those kind of conditions scare me more than creepy places.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jay, didn't you have a culvert scary moment in the cache with a lawn chair? Or is that you?
I don't know.
I thought it was your story.
I've done some crazy things. I don't. That's
somebody that were down through a culvert like that in the dark, round the corner, and some joker had put a skeleton in a lawn chair.
It wasn't a culvert. It was a mine. It's
mine. Okay,
an abandoned mine on which island is that? Just off the coast here in Vancouver. Anyway, but yeah, it's Dave. You go down this old abandoned mine shaft, and then you take a hard right. And some joker had set up a mannequin in a lawn chair.
Wow.
So your headlamp turns, and all of a sudden it's like, oh crap.
That was fun stuff.
Well, Dave, there are more connections here than you realize. Even though you haven't been to Washington State, Komakino remembers that he drew the Twonky in the geocaching comic book. He was the rhino.
Yes, I was a rhino. And he did a great job of depicting me. I'll tell you that. That was a great book.
Talented guy for sure.
Yeah. I know you guys talked about that recently with him. And it was
really, really neat comic book. Yeah.
It was a great project. It really was.
Very cool.
Well, we have people asking, how easy is it to get Josh Gates to go geocaching?
He never went, not while I was with it. It was funny, in my early years, both, in work and, in the greater spectrum of geocaching, I was pretty much in the closet. Not a lot of people knew I did it. I had not attended events. And I was even like, I think it was 18 months or something before. No, it couldn't have been that long. I think it was 300 caches in where before I actually got anything other than a traditional find. I used to filter them out. I didn't pay attention to virtuals or earth caches. Man, I regret that now, because I could have got a lot of other easier quick finds in foreign countries, passing by whatever, the oldest clock in Prague or whatever. But and I didn't go to my first event for at least a year and a half. And now it's like, man, I've been to too many events, probably.
You hosted a big one, or co-hosted. Yeah.
I don't think that's atypical, though. I think it takes a while before people realize, oh, you know what? I'm going to try another cache type, or go to an event, or do something different. And now the official geocaching app kind of walks you through that slowly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, when you first sign up, the first couple only ones you can find are traditionals. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah. I do regret it, but there's so many caches around, and a lot of people complain about certain types and adventure labs and all. It's just, I think it's pretty beautiful. There are so many different ways to cache.
Right.
Especially with stats and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I cache like too many ways, to tell you the truth. I have too many things I want to fulfill. It's like, oh, where can I help, fill this challenge or that challenge. What counties can I get during this visit? Where's the oldest cache in this place? There's too many aspects of the game that I enjoy.
Right.
And
It's
sometimes
a
I
game
gotta.
within a game.
Yeah, so I'm going up to Washington the first time. I don't know when I'm going to get back up there again. First time as a geocacher. Do I want to get every county or do I want to get these caches? Unfortunately, I think at this time I can't get the ape cache. I think that's closed down.
No, it's open.
It still
No,
is? Oh, I thought they
Yeah.
closed it around November or something.
Well,
They closed the tunnel, and it might be
the
about
tunnel. Yes, the tunnel will be closed, but you could still get to the ape cache by
okay.
going up the Annette Lake trailhead.
Yeah, the first time we found it, the tunnel was closed and we hiked up.
Okay, well, I guess I won't be walking through a tunnel then.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a beautiful tunnel.
Yeah,
It's
fun.
2.25 miles long.
yeah. I'll have to figure that out. And I GCD might be a little bit unobtainable because there's been a lot of snow up there now
Yeah.
Mhm.
already. So, and was thinking about swinging by there on my way back from the webcam out in what is it, Leavenworth? Is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I'm not sure I'll be able to do that.
Leavenworth this time of year. It's a German town. It's
Yep.
beautiful. It's going to be very Christmassy. Yeah.
I'm hoping to spend the night around there, so that'd be cool.
Nice.
Yeah,
First
you'll
night.
like it.
Yeah, I was there
Yeah.
last month,
Yeah.
2 weekends.
Yeah, Brian says GCD won't be extra. I didn't think it would be. I actually looked at the highway cams up there already last week, and it was like a blizzard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You need you need special parking permits. They're not hard to get, but you need to know what you need.
Oh,
Yeah,
welcome back.
it's brutal. I was planning a trip up there last April, not this past April, but April 2023, because I wanted to get all that. But and I'm reading, it's still snowed, too much snow up there for all
Mhm.
those caches. I'm like, oh great. So I took a geo trip anyways and got the final 33 counties in California.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Nice.
Impressive.
yeah.
Well, the first time I knew you were a geocacher was a segment from what is it, Dirty Jobs Road Trip?
Yeah.
Yeah, during the lockdowns. By the way, I still have that episode saved on the DVR. It was great to show to my wife. I go, see, other people do this too, honey.
Yeah, that came up really bizarrely actually. I was working another show. I was working straight up Steve Austin for USA Network at the time, and the pandemic hit. We were right in the middle we were right about this. We were a week away from starting our second season. We were about to fly down to Mexico to do a show with Sammy Hagar, and everything shut down. And we were like, nobody knew. It was a weird time in Hollywood, a weird time for everybody. What am I saying? Yeah. But Dirty Jobs, they've been talking about that show coming back for a couple of years now. Mike called me. Okay, I remember I was at my mom's house, and it was long before the pandemic. It was at least 2 years. And he said, look, the show is going to come back, and, are you in? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And, everything happens. And then they were going to start it up around that time. And then the pandemic hit. But they still wanted a way to figure out how to put stuff on air. They needed new shows.
Mhm.
They couldn't do a lot. They couldn't travel a lot. So they called me and said, hey, look, we can just do like what we call repacks. We'll just put, highlights from old shows, but we build these, introductions to, and to talk about stuff. And they wanted it to be very timely. They wanted to be going out and having an adventure or just doing something. The network said, look, what do you got? We got 4 of these episodes. I don't care if you just go out and get a beer. If that's the final destination. And guess what? We made that one of the shows anyway. But that was every night. But we need a destination to go to every time. So I was like, and we need to do this fast because we want to put this on in July. I'm like, okay. And literally, it was June when this happened.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and so I'm like, LA is still under lockdown. You can't do anything. You can't do production. But just north of us, there is San Luis Obispo County that had less restrictions at the time. And my wife and I, since we've been dating about 3 times a year, we go to a town called Cambria, which is on the coast, just north of San Luis Obispo. And everybody knows us there because we go there so often. I know business owners there. So I just started calling people. Hey, I got this TV show, want to do this little thing. I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. It was great. It was really cool. And so we rented a camper and we went up there. We traveled up there all together like a bunch of idiots in a camper together and hung out. And it was a blast. But one of the things is like I said, they wanted a destination. And it's like, I'm trying to rack my brain. It's like, oh, I know some geocaches up there. It's a really cool one I haven't gotten yet in a cave. So they're like, I said, do you know what geocaching is? And I'm like, no. the executive of the network had no idea. And I explained it to him and he's like, hey, that sounds okay. So there it is. That's what we're doing. It's that simple sometimes, I guess. But yeah, so, it was kind of funny because a lot of people really liked the top of that show anyways, when we basically stated the purpose of what we're doing on that episode, going to find a geocache.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had my iPad out and I explained the app and all that kind of stuff. It got edited down, of course, but a lot of people were very complimentary of how it explained the game. A lot of people said they never seen that kind of thing on explained that well on TV for this game. And I love the game, so I wanted to portray it well.
Mm-hmm.
It was great. Of course, we get to the cave, we find an ammo can. There's absolutely nothing in it. And Mike's like, "This is it." And I was like, it's kind of like I thought that was really funny, actually, because it's kind of like what our show is in a way.
Yeah,
but we had a blast doing it.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Nice.
it was a great show. I mean, all the run of the show plus the whole
yeah.
road trip segments to it. I loved the raw behind the scenes look at stuff. I have done a lot of work not at your level, but I've done a ton of work, handheld camera work for concerts and corporate stuff. So Troy was always my hero on your show.
Guy's awesome, man. Troy,
Yeah.
Troy and Doug both are there.
They were great.
Yeah.
So
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, it's it just the whole behind the scenes thing that was sort of just incorporated into episodes eventually was very organic as well, because a lot of people online started asking, if Mike's getting this dirty, how dirty's the crew getting? What's the equipment look like at the end of the day? And sometimes, look, we like our rule. We always said, don't stop rolling.
Right.
We never wanted to stop the camera because we don't know what's going to happen. Mike's in a situation he's never been in. Who knows if an ostrich is going to bite his, whatever off, So it's just like, and then eventually the camera started catching us, and we'd throw in a tidbit or two, and it was really got a great response with the audience. And sometimes we probably did a little too much of that, I would say, but I don't know, not too many people complained about it audience wise.
Right.
And and then all of a sudden it's like almost every Discovery show wanted a behind the scenes show once we started doing this. It's kind of funny. And everybody started trying a little too hard. And a lot of people started asking, like, a lot of people like who met me in the business who never met me before during that show were like, "Are you an actor?" And I'm like, "What? No. What do you mean? It's just you're so funny on the show because you always get yourself in trouble." I was like, "Well, I'm just doing my job, man."
He called it the truth camera. Is that what he called it? I forget.
Well,
but,
I don't know if we had a specific name, but I guess it's just because, Mike used to make fun of me on camera all the time. He used to push me around like physically, and I used to do stupid shit, pardon my language, it's just because we're all in these new situations.
Right.
I had no idea.
But yeah, you mentioned the camera. Whenever I saw Mike crawling into some crevasse, something, and you saw the other perspective, I thought, that camera guy had to crawl in there first.
Yeah,
exactly. And probably backwards.
Yeah.
Get the right angle. And you're like,
yeah. Oh yeah. We had, it was really hard sometimes to get, to portray what we needed to portray, visually because of some of the tight spaces we've been in.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just love, putting Mike into very painful situations. It was a lot of fun. It was good TV.
I think it was very authentic.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's I think that's one of the biggest reasons why the show was so successful. A lot of people saw how authentic it was. It wasn't your typical quote unquote reality TV, where there's all these people just, fighting over, what they're going to have for breakfast that morning or whatever. And it was, when we got angry at each other, we did. That didn't happen too often, but when stuff went awry, and it happened quite a bit,
Yeah.
because, we're in crazy situations. It's amazing we didn't get more injured than, we did in some of the situations. I mean, we were in steel mills. We went to a steel mill, and I remember one of the cameramen tripped one time, and we were like on this, I don't know, it was just like this very narrow ledge, and there's molten lava right under right beneath us, 20 feet. It would be a quick fall and a quick death, so that would have been all right.
That's the only beneficial parts of this, right?
yeah
It's over quickly.
Oh, look at this. Someone, cameraman episode. I remember the lice episode the most. Yeah, that was me. A lot of people are like, "Oh yeah, you just did that because it would be funny." It's like, no, I accidentally touched myself when they told me not to. It's like, don't, what happened is, like, they're removing lice from children's hair, and we did this episode, and they're putting the lice on a towel, so a white towel, so we could see them. Lice are black, and so I wanted to get some close-ups. I was shooting those close-ups that were on the towel, and to get a right angle, because the lice are still moving around, they're alive. So I moved the towel a bit, so I touched the towel, and I got the angle I needed to, and then it was hot in there, so I brushed my hair back. I took my hat off and brushed my hair back, and the guy who was doing the removal said, "Did you just touch your hair?" I said, "Well, yeah." So what? I just touched the towel. He goes, "It doesn't matter. There could be eggs in there or something that'll hatch in your hair later." I was like, "Come on." I said, "No, seriously." It's like, you need to come back for treatment for 2 weeks in a row, or you need to shave your head right now. I was like, this was up in San Francisco. I had stuff to do. I wasn't coming back there for 2 weeks. I just shave my head. I don't care. Sometimes you got to make a choice, and it might not be the best choice, but
Oh yeah. Well, getting hair stuck in a climbing rig in Hawaii was the one that that was the audio guy, wasn't it? Or
no, that was Troy.
That was Troy. Okay, yeah.
Troy got us. Troy was our bravest soul. He would go into any situation. He knew how to rock climb and stuff like that. But yeah, he was propelling down there, and somehow his crazy hippie hair got caught in the rigging.
Yeah.
It reminds me a little bit, Dave. I don't know if you've seen the show. There's one that's shot up here, Search and Rescue North Shore.
I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and they go. We've had them on the podcast as well.
Cool.
And Grant and his team, they go out with the North Shore Rescue Team into some of the most extreme environments we have here to rescue folks. But it's like what we're all talking about here. It's like, yeah. And so to get that shot, the guy lugging the camera is also,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
It's
think
crazy.
we forget about that sometimes when we're watching these programs, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's not an aspect of of television production I ever thought I'd be a part of, but behind the scenes, it's like, what do people like when they buy DVDs of movies they love? They like the what they call the value added material, the extra, the director's commentaries, the behind the scenes documentaries.
Yeah.
It's like, I guess it's a thing, sure it is. And, it was fun, it really was.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's quite the adventure you've been on so far, and sounds like lots more to go. A big trip coming up in the Northwest here, up in Washington. Well, I say here, I mean immediately south of me. But hey, Dave, next time you're coming up into the Vancouver area, you'll have to give me a ring, and we'll have to connect.
I definitely will. I love it up there. I've cached there. I got my first geocache in the Vancouver area.
Nice.
In Canada. First geocache in Canada.
Right.
Yeah. So it's great. Yeah, I love it up there.
Awesome. Geez, Chris, I'm taking a look at the clock, and we've had so much fun talking to Dave.
I know.
We've just about run through the hour.
It's amazing. Dave, we appreciate you coming on and just talking openly about your love of geocaching. That's been fantastic.
Guys, I love doing it. I'll talk about it. I could talk, for another hour, but if you don't have the time, I guess we'll
So
be.
we do have the after show. You're welcome to hang out for.
Yes.
Well, I don't know. If I'm invited, I'll be more than happy to. I don't know what you want to do for that, but I don't have to.
The after show is unscripted. We don't know what will happen.
Oh, that's all for me then. I'm all about unscripted.
Fantastic. Hey, viewers, thank you for taking the time to watch or listen to this show. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Caching in the Northwest.
Absolutely. We want to take a moment to thank Landsharks and Cashly, both of whom are our corporate Denali level sponsors. Landsharks, LANDSHARKZ.ca is the outdoor adventure and geocaching store. Check them out online. They're shipping those online orders daily. And Cashly, well, my goodness, if you got an iPhone and you're not using Cashly, check your head and then go download Cashly, the geocaching app for iOS. We want to thank all of our faithful Denali level supporters, of course, Landsharks and Cashly, but also Cool Cow Cachers and Hawaiian Melee. If you want to know more about supporting this here podcast, click that Patreon link on the cachingnw.com website.
That's right. Just like Coors got did.
And GSM times 2.
Peach of Washington.
You talks to rocks.
The Terrible Teas.
Gas Station Tuna.
J-Car.
Skyhawker.
CRS 98.
Ken. We have a new supporter. We don't know your geocaching name, Ken. So
But
thank you for supporting us, but send us your geocaching name.
And Mountain Bike.
And Flagman.
Railroad.
Butterfly Girl.
MC3 Cats.
Geo Birder.
You, Dak.
Logwork.
M-Nerve.
Genies.
Seabeck Tribe.
The Camp Clan.
Trexer.
Just finding our way.
Team Noltex.
Geocaches.
Green Words.
BC Rock Crawler.
And Teus.
GeoNav Pro.
Whidbey Island Gal.
Kid Vegas 19.
Boomer 365.
Hacker Doc.
LG 9000.
Kitty Quest.
Limax.
Subway Mark.
Dora Moore.
Just Carlo.
And B Pendragon.
Oh, thank you, all you patrons. And thank you, Dave, for hanging with us tonight. We're glad we finally got connected with you here on the podcast. If somebody wanted to connect directly with you, do you have a way that you'd allow them to do that?
You know, I'm not really a social media guy, but I do have a geocaching specific Instagram. And I post there when I do things interesting, at least according to me. But yeah, you can follow. It's simply the Twonky at it, at the Twonky on Instagram. So
All right.
feel
There
free
you
to
go.
follow me.
I love it. And folks, thanks for taking the time to listen to this episode of Caching in the Northwest. Your support helps keep the quality shows coming. So if you like the show, please click the Patreon link on the cachingnw.com website. And if you didn't like the show, and again, I don't know how you could, but let us know what you want us to talk about. If you like the vibe, please subscribe wherever you get your podcast and leave us a review. If you were in a restaurant, you would tip. If you were in a live audience, you would clap. But since you're on a podcast, leave us a free, fast, fabulous, fantastic 5-star review. You can call into 253-693-TFTC and leave us a comment, ask a question, or shave your head at an event any time of the day or night. And of course, you can email us at feedback@cachingnw.com. Join us every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Pacific for a live show and chat. This show is produced by Chris Umfenauer, Jim Paulwitz, Jay Kennedy, and Brian Lang. It's licensed under Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Copyright 2024 by Chris Umfenauer. And folks, I ask you to stay tuned for
The After Show.
The After Show.
The voice from somewhere. The voice from the sci-fi TV, maybe.
Oh, there you go. The Twonky.
Yeah, the Twonky. Oh, it's funny. Landsharks is, of course, one of your great sponsors. When I was in Japan, I was like signing after a bunch of names I kind of knew. It was like Stones fan and T.O. I don't know if you know her. She's from Toronto, but I met her a couple of months ago at an event here in California, and I was looking at stuff around my hotel in Tokyo, I think it was, and I saw that she was there. I was like, oh wow, what a coincidence. And then, I'm going through other stuff and around Tokyo, and she's there, and then I'm seeing other names I recognize, including Z-Don B, which is a good friend of mine, and is like they're on a Landsharks tour in Tokyo right now.
Yes.
Yeah. I think they just left Japan. I can't remember because they went down to Okinawa, because I started talking to Don on, text, and they said I told them you got to get the Point Meta cache, which is the oldest in Asia, but I don't think I don't think anybody did. I've been following that cache. I don't think anybody in the tour got that.
Okay.
I probably scared them away with my log.
Well, they usually have a fairly well structured plan ahead of time, so when they get to places, they've got in mind where they're going to go, what they're going to do. But I mean, like that's Don's a great guy to travel with. He was on he's on a lot of the trips I've gone on as well.
Yeah, he just went to Antarctica with them, I think, early this year. Yeah.
Actually, my next Antarctica video goes live tomorrow morning.
So. I'll check it out, because that's like when people ask me what's a geocaching bucket list place, I'm like, Antarctica's it, man.
Yeah,
that's it for me.
That was amazing.
I definitely.
It's cold, Land Monkey. That's cold.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, that's the funny thing, is that I was expecting, I was prepared for way colder than it was. So, because you go there in there is summer, right? So,
right.
Yeah. There's one on
Somewhere.
ISS.
Sorry?
Isn't there a cache on the ISS?
There is.
Oh.
Yeah.
That would be a bucket list one for sure.
Talk about cold there.
Yeah, right.
just don't take the Boeing route to.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, get thick with Elon Musk there.
Yeah. What does Uber cost to get to the station?
Ask Elon. He's got it down.
Yeah.
Too funny. What else do we got in the
Well,
test?
let's go look to see what we've got here.
All right.
UDAC wants to know, have you ever done voiceover work?
No, I haven't. I've done like what we do, what we call scratch tracks. I'll be, in my office. When I worked in an office in a bigger company, when I was doing dirty jobs, for instance, an editor would come in and they said, we like your voice. Can you use this? We're going to send this, promo to the network.
Mhm.
Could you voice it? I've done that a couple times, but nothing professionally though. Yeah, I mean, like I said, promo, but it's usually like a sales tape, like when they're trying to, or what they call sometimes a sizzle reel, a proposal for a show. They want a narrator for it, and they have no money, so they ask me to do it.
Okay, so this question comes from GSM times 2. So I'm just gonna, let you know ahead of time.
Oh, geez, it's probably questions we've talked about 13 times when we hang out, but whatever.
About getting your chest hair removed.
That's a total fetish for Scott. I know.
That doesn't surprise. You know what? Let's just move on from that one then.
No, I mean, no. That happened on Dirty Jobs, and it was my own stupid idea. Again, it was for one of those repack shows I mentioned. We had a lot of them over the course of the 7 seasons of the original run of the show, and one of the places we went for a regular show, we did actual segments on Mackinac Island. If you're familiar with Mackinac Island, between the UP and the Lower Peninsula in Michigan,
on the bridge.
Yeah. So yeah, that's right. We did an episode on the bridge. It was a great episode, and we did some stuff on Mackinac Island as well. And we loved it. I mean, it's just, everybody goes there to have a great time and party. So we were looking for an excuse to go back. And so we were doing a couple of repacks at the time. I said, hey, there's a lot of stuff we could do at Mackinac Island. And, I had become friends. A lot of us had become friends with some of the people who worked there. The owner of the Grand Hotel, they were gracious enough to let us, do a segment there. So I kept in contact with them, and also a woman who owned a hair salon up there, and a spa, and she had a couple of locations around, and she had one on Mackinac, and we became really good friends, and I became friends with her husband and all that kind of stuff, and we hung out, and we needed ideas to just fill these spaces in between to introduce these old segments. So I don't know why, but we did some stuff in her spa, and she said, we should do a waxing thing. I said, well, who the hell are we going to get to wax? I was like, and Mike just looked at me and said, you're available, and you got a pretty hairy chest. That was crazy, man. So I did it. Yeah, I agreed. So I lay down on the table, and they put hot wax on me and started ripping stuff off of me. And I swear to God, I nearly passed out twice. It was so painful. And it was funny because that was the last day. We shot like 3 days there for those, and my wife was flying in to spend a couple of days of the weekend with me, and she flies in that night, and she couldn't even hug me. It hurt so bad.
Well, I was gonna ask you, Dave. Like, what do you do after? It's like you can't put a shirt on, can you? Like,
You know, you imbibe. If you like scotch, I highly recommend it. Seriously, I couldn't take it. It was you're right. The shirt, it hurt to put a shirt on. And the thing of it is, you know, my friend, you know, Susan, she was like, look, you'll be okay for, you know, maybe 3 days. It'll start growing back. You might get some ingrown hairs. Literally, it was growing back on me that night. It was not
Wow.
cool. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's my extra powers of, you know, I don't know what it is.
That's your superpower.
Yeah, it's my
Growing
superpower.
chest hair.
Able to grow chest hair, you know, in a single evening.
The 5 o'clock shadow.
Yeah, it's just, and it was brutal. And yeah, I had a lot of soreness. I had a lot of ingrown. It was probably had a lot of ingrown hairs because Mike wasn't doing the process right. You know
What? No.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, I actually bled a couple of times. But,
Oh,
you know, that's not supposed to happen. I had a cry uncle. You know, Susan finished my chest after I couldn't do it anymore, and yeah.
Was there a difference between Mike and Susan?
Oh yeah, I mean, there was nothing. Susan, nothing. Susan did bled at all, but Mike, geez, it was pretty brutal.
Wow. Nice. Well, not.
So there you go, Scott.
For us.
I hope you enjoy that, Scott.
Oh, UDAC posts a question that we didn't get to in the show. She said, I heard you put a lot of work into GW20. Please tell us how you contributed. I don't know if we have the time to actually go into that. That might be a whole nother show.
All right, then UDAC, it'll have to wait. I'm sorry.
Sorry, UDAC.
I'll tell you the next event I see. I only see you like 5 times a year at least.
Here's GSM times 2 doing a walk and talk video with you.
Yes,
There's the YouTube link if you want to follow it.
fun.
That was a lot of fun. He's really good at those. I wish he'd do more, actually.
Scott also asked, how many countries have you found geocaches in now?
Japan was my 27th.
Nice.
Impressive.
Very cool.
Congratulations.
Japan's one country I've been blessed to travel to. I have 3 cache finds in Japan.
I'll tell you. Oh, you know, to finish that phone story though, when my phone
yeah.
broke in that trip,
Mhm.
I could have got no. I'm sorry, that was the next trip. We went to Nepal and the Philippines, and we were so busy in the Philippines. That was our first stop on Expedition Unknown, and I there weren't a lot of caches where we went, and I never got a cache in the Philippines. Yet I was there for like 10 days, and then in Nepal there were even fewer. And this was, my first year of geocaching, and there was something called, in the description, it was something about a TB hotel. I didn't even know what that meant. I thought that was the name of the location the cache was going to be at. I couldn't find TB hotel anywhere. And I'm like, I'm in an alleyway and it's completely dark. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. So I never got one in Nepal either. That really still bugs me to this day.
And you didn't want to go anywhere near tuberculosis.
No,
It was the TB I would think of.
Well, to be fair, I've probably been close quite a few times. Yeah. But, I'm also a little bit burnt about, when Germany, there's a lot of aspects of my geography nerdom. And I go out of my way to get cool little weird caches. But a lot of them sometimes are virtual, which are still fun. There is a virtual on the intersection of the border of Germany, Luxembourg, and Belgium. So you stand on a bridge and you're in 3 countries. And I actually bought via Amazon 3 little flags for each of those countries. I packed them in my suitcase and I held them in the photo I took to put on the cache log. And there's actually a couple of earth caches, some memorial stones, some giant rocks that they have, and 3 of them in Belgium and 2 of them in Luxembourg. But the problem is, literally, you look on the map, there are 3 of them in Belgium, but they're all in Luxembourg according to geocaching on the website.
Oh.
Even the CEO in the description says there are 3 in Belgium. So I don't have Belgium. I thought I was going to get 3 caches in Belgium
Wow.
that day, and I don't have Belgium. So I would have had 38 countries, but I guess not. Got to go back to Belgium, I guess.
Oh well.
It's a big.
Take your wife there for the chocolate.
Yeah. Well, actually, like I said, we like castles. We do a lot of castle stuff, and believe it or not, Belgium has more castles than any other country.
Wow.
I think I heard that.
Yeah.
That is a beautiful country.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful coastal area there as well.
Yeah, it's a big hole in my Europe map. I'll tell you that right now. I got all the countries around it.
Starcasher says the Twonky hair removal seems to be the theme for the episode.
Yeah, it's funny how that works, man. I never even thought about that before. I have a lot of hair-related incidents.
Yeah. Bummer. Must go back to Belgium.
Yeah.
If it's Tuesday, this must be Belgium.
Yeah, that's true. I don't like to travel that fast. Although, after that show, it was actually the next year I did a magic show that we went with. It was called The Road Trip, and there was a famous magician. And we went to, the whole premise of the show was we went to different countries in Europe, and he tried to get access to cool stuff by showing people magic, and it worked out really well. It was really stupid, actually. And all the things were happening, like, the magician's like, "You guys produced that, right?" And I'm like, "No, it just happened. We got lucky." And like, it was brilliant. And we went to 12 countries in 51 days.
Wow.
And it was crazy. It was, I had like 1 day off, I think, in Prague total. That was like 1 full day off. But every other day I was working, and there was a very small 6-person crew. We had to come up with, magic, as a producer, I gotta help come up with the magic tricks and make sure they're good for the show. I was also the second cameraman on that show. It was very physical, but we saw so many cool things. We went, in the catacombs of Paris, but there's a tourist area for the catacombs of Paris. But we found this guy who has parties in the catacombs with 200 people down there, and we didn't go to a party, but he brought us to one of the areas that he did, and it was crazy. I mean, it's completely illegal.
Right.
But so we literally at midnight, we go to this intersection in the middle of Paris. We hide behind a Chinese restaurant, and the guy runs out to the intersection, removes a manhole cover, and says only one person at a time can run out. And so one by one, when there was no traffic, we went out, we went down the manhole cover, and we went for an hour till we found his party spot. It was just really crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
At least you all met up again, right? You didn't just disappear and spread into the sewers.
No, well, one person did, but we won't talk about that.
Showed up in the scene.
Yeah.
Oh.
Heather's asking what my real name is. My real name is David Barsky. Barsky is my last name.
You can find him on IMDb.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
It says that sounds like how your Paris story sounds like how horror movies start.
Yeah, I should have known better, being a big fan of horror movies. But yeah, it's like some of those brutal European, what they call it, torture porn movies or something. Yeah, totally.
Oh, I love it, folks. Thanks so much for joining us. One more announcement before we call it quits tonight is that in January, the start time for Caching in the Northwest is going to move to 7 p.m. Pacific time. So we're going to move it 2 hours earlier. There'll be more on that. We're just going to do a soft reveal right here. The patrons already know about it. So that'll happen in January. But until then, go ahead.
I was getting worried.
I'm sorry. A bit of a surprise announcement that we're going to roll the clocks back 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was you guys had a weird
concept
1 hour daylight savings there, man.
Well, daylight savings kind of prompted the whole thing. What if we moved the time of the podcast? And then we thought, well, what if we just never change the time of the podcast with daylight savings or back to normal? But then nobody would ever know when to watch the show. So
there you go. Lots of feedback there in the chat about the announcement there.
Yeah.
And no, Komakini, we're not going to try and still run it till 10 p.m.
We will do more patron only after shows though.
That's true.
Yep.
Yeah. When it doesn't push towards midnight and we have to work the next day.
Yeah.
Some people start nodding off after these after shows.
Yeah.
During them.
Some of the hosts nod off during the show.
Yeah.
Folks, thanks so much for joining us. And until next week, get out and get caching in the Northwest.